He's our special guest who's conducting the workshop about the three Mulans. Okay, so I hope you're all excited to start. There will be breakout rooms and discussions as well. Okay, so maybe all of you can just show Dr. Gwee you're welcome by just like clapping a bit. Like, welcome, good morning, yay. Okay, Dr. Gwee, I'll pass the time to you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank your school for inviting me to join you today. I hope you're enjoying your camp so far. It is a very unusual camp to be conducted this way. I have previously also done Zoom lessons, but I think I've never done one with so many young people. There's like a lot of videos. If however you respond will, affect how I feel when I'm doing it at this end. So I think there are still people coming in, right? I keep hearing the ding ding sound. I think that's what it means. Right. The session
We'll continue entering. So I think we just proceed as they enter or leave in the background.
Sure. So today's workshop is on the three Mulans. Do you know which three Mulans we're talking about? No? We're talking about, firstly, the Ballad of Mulan, which is the original, the Mulans that you guys have been, you people have been reading, right? I think your school has provided it in your booklet, the Chinese version with the English translation. My Chinese is not very good. I cannot read the version, so I will refer to the English translation if I have to. And then the other two is, of course, the famous one for you, the two Disney version. The one with Mina Wen as Mulan, the voice of Mulan in the Disney animation, the 1998 one. I watched that when I was young, so that is really my version. And then there's your version, which is the one that just came out this year, 2020, which is the live action one with Liu Yifei as Mulan, right? And so that's the three versions that we're talking about today. Even though there are many versions, actually, there are other movie versions. There are even a television version. And I think there is just another version, Kung Fu Mulan, just came out in China. I hear it's not very good compared to the Disney one. But you might want to watch that one on your own. But today we're talking about these three, okay? The original Ballad and the two film versions by Disney. And we'll be comparing, because this is a workshop. I'd like you to not just listen to me, but really to get this out for yourself as a group. You discuss and you see the differences between all these three versions. What are we trying to do? The point is to help you observe why the makers of the other two versions, the two Disney version, change some parts of the original story or add to it. And then why do they make this kind of changes? And I like us to think about all this, right? Because it's very interesting. It tells us about how the story of Mulan is being retold, adapted for different generations of audience. Okay, so that's what we'll learn, and I think you will get a lot of fun insight into this, so that next time you go back and watch either the animation or the movie, you will definitely see some difference. The animation, I assume that all of you will have watched it. If you have not, don't worry. I have clips that you can use to discuss if you have not. Or if you can't remember, I hope it helps to jot some memories. After your camp, you can always go to the library. I'm not sure whether your school library has it, but the National Library definitely has the CD that you can borrow and watch. Or if you have not watched the live action one, it is still in the theaters. So ask your mother or your teacher, or your parents or your teacher to go take you to go and watch again if you need to. For this I have to watch it a second time, to prepare. And also the animation I have to watch. I think since 1998 until now, I must have watched at least 6 or 7 times by now. So I really enjoyed it all, and I think you will also learn something maybe each time you get back to the films. Now, I want to start by having us look at a clip.
Light the signal! Blow the gate!
Fast-paced with good breeding and a tiny wit, you'll bring honor to us all. Wait and see when we're through. Win and feel, you'll bring honor to us all. There, you're ready.
Not yet. And everybody and refinement. You must also be poised.
Dishonor to the Hua family.
They look like a bride.
They have failed
You will never
to raise
bring
a
your
good
family
daughter.
honor.
The Yi family!
Family.
I will serve the emperor in my father's
Go
place.
family.
The Fa family!
Hua family.
Father, you can't go.
Mulan, I am
Please,
blessed
sir.
with 2 daughters.
My father has already.
No, you will only humiliate him further.
The Chu family! The Wen family!
Go family.
How can you fight?
You shouldn't have to go.
Mulan.
There are plenty of young men to fight for China.
It is an honor
It is
to
my
protect my
honor to
country
our family
and
on
my
the battlefield.
family.
There were men gathering all over the kingdom.
And work it!
Only the strongest will reach the summit.
Fifth Battalion thanks you.
I came here to be alone.
What was that today?
Woman!
Treacherous snake.
My name is Mulan.
Hua Mulan.
I did it to save my father.
No be granted.
was.
Not quite.
The greatest gift and honor is having you for a daughter.
Okay. I hope you enjoy that. You can see, right, the similarities and differences. The two films, Disney films, actually respond. I mean, the new Disney film is actually responding to the old Disney film, and not just to the Ballad of Hua Mulan. So it is actually very conscious. It is very clever in knowing that it has to respond to all these past versions of Mulan, even the one that is made by Disney itself. Here, but the original Disney one, which is the animation, is itself making a lot of changes from the Ballad, right? So today we are going to do this. We're going to see differences between the versions, so that you can understand what has why and what has been changed and why these changes has happened. But to start off, let me talk a bit about the Ballad of Hua Mulan, which I am sure you have already firstly read, and secondly, I hear yesterday there is another speaker who has also talked about the virtues that you can get out of Ballad of Hua Mulan. Correct? Yeah. Can anyone name some of the virtues from the Ballad that you can learn from it? Can someone just say something? Unmute and then give me an answer. Don't worry, I cannot see you. I can just see a lot of faces.
Mulan is very courageous and filial.
Yes, she is courageous and filial. And in fact, if you watch the films, they will highlight this as the things that she have. I mean, the virtues that she have that that makes her so memorable and someone we should look up to. The ballad itself is, as you know, quite short, and actually it is recorded during the time of Northern Wei, which is in the 4th century AD. And this was a time when China, at least really, is broken into two, right? The North and the South. And it is assumed that that was the first time the folk song, we don't know how long it has been around, but it's the first time it was recorded. But it was not actually known until later on, again, another century later in the Southern Chen dynasty, when it was anthologized with other songs and stories in a book, and that was the version that we primarily know. So actually, the story might have been older, but its written form only came out around the 4th and 5th century AD. What you may not know, and this is a very interesting thing we forget when we watch the animation, and these days when we think about the Hua Mulan story, is that it actually firstly involves a real war. Whether she exists itself, we don't know, but the war is definitely real. The war is fought between the northern Wei state and this Mongolic nomads, this nomadic Mongol people called the Rouran. I think in Chinese you call them the Xiongnu, and they are also the first people to use the title Khan. You know, these days we associate the word Khan with the Mongolian people as their version of the emperor of the king, right? But these are the people who first use it. There are actually originally a lot of Mongolian people, a lot of Mongolian groups. The Xiongnu is only one of them. In fact, what is interesting to know is that the Northern Wei state at this time was itself originally a Mongol people called the Xianbei. So what the story originally involved is actually two Mongolic people, you know. It's not really about China versus a unified China versus the Mongols. It's not like that. I mean, and so this is very interesting because only sometime around the Tang dynasty that this story gets absorbed into Chinese culture, and then it becomes about Mongolian people versus China, unified China. But if you read even the Ballad of Mulan, maybe you'll be confused, right? When the emperor is actually referred to as Khan. Huh? And then he was talk about, being with the Tartan people, which is the Mongol. So this is so very interesting. You know, it was a time that didn't actually have that integration into the Chinese empire yet. So this story actually, in that sense, deal with really the Xianbei versus the Xiongnu. The story itself, based on the ballad, you already may have read and understood. The basic gist of it is that Mulan, the story is told from her, from her voice, right? She was very upset when you first read the ballad. It starts off by her deciding that she will take her father's place because she just encountered the father's conscription to the army by the Khan. And so she disguised herself to join the army. And then she did a lot of great work for the army. She was courageous. She was brave. She was, she supports the authority and also her fellow army mates. And then she has 12 years of wonderful service in the army. Before then, she decides to go home. The Khan at that time wanted to give her money, wanted to give her a position, a powerful position, but she didn't want. She says she wants to go home. And so she went home. And only when she reached home and, she put back all her womanly clothes and makeup and all, then her friends who were former comrades who came to her house to visit her, that was when they realized she's a woman, right? All this time, 12 over years, they have been fighting together and they didn't know that she was a woman. And so this is already very different, right, from the Disney story, because the Disney story has her revealed to be a woman during the war itself, whereas this one, and that she went home as a woman. But in the story itself, even the emperor doesn't know that she was a woman. Nobody knew that she was until finally when they visit her at home. So already there is this very intrinsic difference. I think the Disney versions, in both versions, they needed to tell a story lah. So because they have to tell a story, they have to make it dramatic, and so the shape is different from a song, right? The song has to build up to the point where the ending is a surprise in this case. And then you have the very important twist at the end of the ballad, which is the very powerful last stanza, right? The one that says, if you see two rabbits running around, two rabbits playing around, how can you know which is the male and which is the female? Which is a very good question to ask. Because for us, when we make judgments about what men can do and what women can do, already because in our heads, we have these notions, that society teaches us, that tradition teaches us, that even sometimes our own sight, our own experiences tells us, this is only things women can do, or these are things that only men can do. And then we assume that is natural, that women cannot do this thing, or only men can do this thing, right? But that last few lines of Ballad of Mulan was so powerful because it says that actually, if you don't think of these things and you let two rabbits, for example, run around, there's no way you can tell the gender difference. So how do you know some things women cannot do? And how do you know whether some things only men can do, right? Sometimes if we don't think about these things, our concept may actually be enlightened. We may actually see the real truth of a situation. this is a good thing to think about, because I think in Singapore, maybe sometimes adults are your parents, or some also may still have the idea, things like, oh, women cannot serve national service, only men can serve national service. This is quite different from what the Ballad of Mulan itself is saying as a lesson, right? That actually a lot of things men can do, women can also do. And men are not special to be able to do something. Maybe a lot of things are just our concepts. Okay. There's another aspect to the story of Mulan that I want to bring in. The West actually has a version of this. I'm not sure whether you know about this version, because when it happened, people call her the French Mulan. I'm talking about Saint Joan of Arc. Have you heard of Saint Joan of Arc? Yes, some of you have, some of you don't. Okay. It's a very famous Western version of Mulan, which you may be also real life, which maybe you are interested to go read up on. It's a 15th century woman from a village in France, and she went to fight in the what is called the 100 Years' War between French and England, France and England. During this war, she fought very courageously. You know, she wore armor and and she really was out there fighting with the men. But then what happened was that she was captured by the enemy and convicted of heresy. Heresy is a religious crime, with a crime for cross-dressing. All right, and she was famously burned on the stake. They burned her alive on after tie her to the wood. That's what the wood is called, a stake. They tie her and then they burn her. And then she became really a national hero in France. So if you do know a bit about French culture, Saint Joan is actually a national hero. She's also a saint because in the 20th century, the Catholic Church made her a saint. Early in the 20th century. So that's what she is now. So there is that version where it's very interestingly mimic what Mulan was many centuries ago. Right. Coming back to Ballad of Mulan compared to the two Mulan by Disney, you will notice there's some important differences. Things like there's really no magic, there's no supernatural creatures, right? The Ballad also has no references to her bodily look, her concern with appearances. I think these are also a lot of projection from Disney based on modern concerns on or more on their interest in wanting to highlight the theme more that they bring into the films. There's also no love interest, in both the animation and the live action. There is, the love figure that she kind of have, interest romantically with, and there's no great emperor saving moment that both films also have. But you're right. The student just now who said that Mulan is brave and filial to her family. Both virtues are there in the story, in the film. Also about her being skillful, resourceful, and also her being true to her friends. Now, what I want us to start off by doing is when I will have two breakout moments for us, all right, for you to think more about comparisons. The first challenge that I have for all of you now, exercises in your breakout group, is to have you think about the differences between the Ballad of Mulan, or the Ballad of Hua Mulan, the song, the poem, with the original animation. Okay, you compare these two, and then you tell me when we come back some differences between these two, right? I'd like you to, as a group, think about the many differences, but I will later on ask or choose a leader from each group lah. Okay, the leader for first time I think should be a Sec 2 person. I will name you when you're in a group. Okay, but everyone must talk in your group. Don't let the poor person do everything. Right, the person will, when I asked to when we are back to, I asked to present to us the most choose the most significant differences that he or she notices. All right. So, I mean, you guys can discuss a lot, but your leader will choose just one important one to share with everyone, because we have 9 groups. So I hope that everybody gets a chance to share. So just share one major differences, okay? And then you tell me also why Disney made this difference. Why did it change or add this bit into the original story? What is the purpose? Right? You tell me why. I mean, of course, you may not know lah. You just have to guess. Okay, make an intelligent guess why Disney has made this change. Okay. So if you have the link, actually the link will. Okay, we will not look at that yet. Right now, we'll just talk about Mulan Ballad and the 1998 animation Mulan. In your groups, discuss differences and why you think Disney made this change. Okay, so can I have you all in your groups now?
11 minutes later.
There was a very interesting discussion. I noticed that some of you really get very animated already. You are able to spot a lot of differences. But I mean, because there'll be 9 groups sharing, try to find especially if you come later, try to choose something that has not been said earlier lah. Okay, hopefully. I think I will not spoil your chances by listing my own observation of what is different. I will let you speak first. Group 1, can you let us know what your group talked about and the most significant difference that you noticed?
So my group spotted that one similarity would be the values presented by the end of the video, like courageous, determination, and fearless. Then my group, one of the differences of the witch inside the video in 2020 was under the evil at first, but helped Mulan in the end. But there isn't any witch inside the the earlier video.
Yuxian?
What?
I'm actually asking for comparison from the story, from the animation with the Ballad of Mulan. The animation has no witch, right?
Yeah, no.
So what is the difference between that one and the song and the Ballad of Mulan?
I'm not very sure. Okay.
I think the point you made is good for observing for the second part of our discussion. But the first one, think off your head, what do you remember that is different in the animation compared to the Ballad of Mulan, of Hua Mulan?
I can't remember.
Huh? Sorry,
I can't remember.
Okay, don't stress. I think you are right to point out that there are the 3 virtues, right? The 3 virtues actually is highlighted in the animation as well, as what is important to Mulan, that she, and the whole thing about filial piety, loyalty to family, is implicit lah. Is shown in her character, but not in the 3 virtues that is in the animation. So that is separate. I think the 2020 version incorporates it as the 4th virtue, but that was not in the animation. But in the story, it's not explicitly said. In the Ballad, it was just implied that she has all this goodness. They are not highlighted explicitly as this. Okay. Thanks. Let's go to next. If you have any point suddenly you remember, Yuxian, please share with us. Okay. Next group, is it Zachary?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we discussed that in the film, Mulan's real identity only got discovered when she was being treated after the battle with the Huns.
Yes.
Then she was being outcasted by the army. But then in the poem, Mulan successfully remained in disguise for 12 years in the army. And when she returns home, that's when she got found out to be a woman. But then in the poem, when she got found out that she was a woman, she didn't really got outcasted and she wasn't really hated by the people that found out, her comrades. But in the film, that she was outcasted by the whole army and she was thought of a traitor. So you say that Disney changed it so it could be more exciting and there'll be more plot twists to the film.
Good points. Very good observation. But what else? What do you think Disney's real implication is in making the fellow comrades hate her or ostracize her because they realize she is woman? What is the message?
A gender roles that was implemented in the olden times, where the males are supposed to be the one that are out in the war, in the battlefield, but the women are supposed to be at home and doing chores and finding a husband, so to speak, so that they can show that gender equality is very important and that doesn't matter what gender you are, you can do the same thing as each other. So that's the movie trying to balance.
Yes, thank you, Zachary. I think that is a very good point. The Disney film, the animation, the plan is for them to highlight the ideology which is based on gender inequality. And so it has to create the tension between the man and the woman, to highlight that the men perceive that the woman should only do certain things and they feel betrayed when the woman tries to be something else, right? So when Mulan tries, when they find out that Mulan is actually a woman, they reject her. But when, as you rightly say, in the Ballad of Mulan, that's not actually clear. The comrades, when they realize that she's woman, after they come to visit her, they are surprised, but we don't get a sense that they reject her, right? So that is a point. Even though the original, that means the closer in historical terms to the true story, doesn't have all this very strong gender tension, yet the animation makes this, so it seems to be talking more about our times. Even though the story is based in the past, it's talk about our current modern prejudice between men and women. Okay, so yes, how Disney adapts it for our modern times. How about group 3? Thanks, Zach. Group 3.
One of the points that we found out is that in the poem they stated that they had to buy Mulan had to buy the materials like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the animation, they had all the items already at home, like the sword, the armor, and the horse, which is basically from her father, since her father was previously in the war as well.
Yeah, very good observation. Why do you think the animation do it this way?
Maybe it could show why the father was invited again to the war. Maybe he used to be in the war, and that now that they're searching for the men in the family, so then they have to make the fact that he was in the war before and he got invited again, since in the household there was no men except Mulan and
Yeah, good point. I can also think that maybe one reason is because in the poem, in the ballad, the reason why she has to go to all these places, all these different markets, right, in the north and in the south, in the east and the west, to get all these things, it is a way to show that she's a very resourceful person. She is able to get all these things out of sheer determination and she knows where to find this. Whereas the animation can show her being resourceful in other ways. So they didn't need to show her going to all these places to do it, right? So as a way to make the story, I guess, move faster and to find new ways of showing her resourcefulness, so they just make all these items there for her to just have, and then she goes off and join the army. It also makes the plot neater. She doesn't spend too much time in a village. She moves straight to the army. So yes, thanks. That's a good point. Next group, group 4.
So one of the difference we found is that in the Mulan ballad, Mulan have a sister and a brother. Then in the animated one, she only have a sister.
Yes, but she has a brother. I mean, no, she doesn't have a. The animation, no animation. She doesn't have a sister, right? Animation, she's alone, right? She's the only child. In the movie, she has a sister. In the animation, she's alone. But they are very naughty, yeah. Because in the poem, she has a sister and a brother. She has a younger sister and she has a younger brother, right? She's the oldest. But in the animation, the younger brother, the little brother, becomes a dog. The dog is called Little Brother, right? And there's no sister. Huh? Yeah, but that's a good observation. The what they did to the family. What else? Next group. Group 6.
So my group believes that the difference in the Ballad and the Disney versions is Mulan's personality and her attitude towards certain things. Like Disney gave Mulan a rather tomboyish personality, even though there was no mention of her ever spiting the maiden life.
Yes.
And furthermore, in the Ballad, Mulan also holds on to her feminine side and enjoys being a maid.
Yes.
As seen by her putting on her dress and veil, and at the end also facing the mirrors, painting her brows fair.
Yes.
Yeah. So unlike the animated version, Mulan despises being a maid, and she also believes in feminism and empowering women.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
And another one is that the animated version of Mulan had her hair cut short.
Yes.
But the poem didn't mention this.
Yes, that was actually a very controversial scene, you know. That scene of her cutting her hair in order to join the army. A lot of people in China Chinese people reacted towards this because it's a very, Disney being Western, at the time in the 90s, you know, the ideas of Chinese and is still very not very clear. And also it wants to bring out, as I said earlier, the modern idea of man versus woman, right? So it's actually a very modern idea that men has short hair and women has long hair, you know. Whereas the cutting hair, the reason why people react to it is that actually a long time ago in ancient China, the man has long hair. They tie it up into the bundle, right? So, I mean, why does Mulan have to cut the hair to become a man, right? So there was that issue, which you notice is not in the 2020 version anymore, because precisely because people corrected them on this. But it was a very powerful moment because in the film, the cutting of the hair represents her deciding to hide her identity, and it's a very visual representation of the decision that she's made, right? So it's very powerful visually, even though culturally it's not right, it's inaccurate. Thank you. Next group.
Okay, so basically we found out that in the 2020 movie, the movie started with the father's perspective, introducing Mulan. While in cartoon, the movie is like Mulan introduced herself.
Yep. Good point. Right. I think I don't want to spend too much time commenting, so I will move on to the next group. Group 7.
I'm group 7. Just now it's group 6.
Oh, you're group 7. Okay, group 8.
One difference that we found out from the animation and the movie is that the animation actually evokes more emotions from the viewers. Because the animation may be the cartoon may be more closer to the young viewers.
Yes. Okay, so you're talking about the viewers. Yes, the difference is because the young viewership and all, they have to include all these minor characters, right? The friends in the army, the pet, the dragon Mushu who clowns around, make a lot of jokes, and then the cricket, right? The cricket that doesn't talk but belongs to the grandmother, and the lucky cricket, right? That turns out not to be lucky but really unlucky. And all these elements are there to have, of course, the younger audience identify with Mulan. Yep. Okay, last group.
So our group feels that the animation has more comedic relief and love interest compared to the ballad. Because the animation is like it's mainly targeted for children. So as to be more entertaining, then it has a typical fairy tale storyline with the main characters falling in love. Like at the general. Yeah. So we feel that the animation has more comedic relief and love interest.
And why? Why do you think Disney wants to include these elements?
To make the whole thing more entertaining for children, because they wouldn't like to just watch an action movie or something.
That is true. I think one of the big complaints that people have with this modern 2020 version is that, right, they suppress the romantic element, they suppress the funny elements, and then it becomes actually quite just action-packed movie, and people feel like maybe not as exciting. I'm not sure, because I do enjoy the live action one, but I can see why people may not feel like a young audience may be as entertained as by the animation. The other aspect is, of course, you must remember it was made by Disney, and Disney has a trope called the Disney princess trope. Right, all the Disney animation, whenever they make an animation and introduce a new princess, basically meaning a new strong woman character in its animation, they always have a standard plot that will involve a romantic interest, and it also will involve the princess having some sidekick. So if you look at Little Mermaid, you look at what are the ones? Beauty and the Beast. All the animation that Disney does, they will always have this strong woman character that has a sidekick as well as a love interest. All right. For some reason, this is the formula lah. There's a Disney formula to telling a fun story for family, right? So in that sense, they try to fit the Mulan story into the mold of a Disney princess story. Okay, so that is what came about. In that sense, the live action movie is quite different because they try not to actually be that rigid in fitting it so. Right. Thanks. I think from all of you, I get very interesting ideas and thoughts, and I think you really do notice these differences. The thing I want you guys to spend more time understanding is why the Disney people have to make this decision. What is their agenda? What is their ideology? And what does that say about our current times, right? It seems to be saying that we are very divided more in terms of gender than maybe people in the past were conscious about these things. We actually make it a very strong idea that we need to have gender equality. And also the idea that we need to show women with all these values perform in real life, as opposed to just described as one incident. So I think the Mulan story, her femininity is only revealed near the end. The story itself seems to show her being very determined in a career, whereas the animation is not tied to talking about her as someone in a career, but being a more well-rounded figure. I want to name a few more before we move on to our second part of our challenge for today. It is this. I'm not sure whether you noticed when you watch the animation, her name wasn't Hua Mulan. Her name is Fa Mulan. Have you noticed? Yeah? It is different. When it comes to 2020 edition, they changed back to Hua Mulan. Why Hua Mulan? Anyone knows? Cantonese. Right? They use her Cantonese name, which is also interesting because there was a time when Hong Kong used to be the idea through which the West understands China. China at that time was still pretty much closed. So because Hong Kong was the means through which Western world understands Chinese drama or Chinese movie, because they watch a lot of Hong Kong movies and all, and also a lot of Hong Kong actors went over to act in the West. They learned Chinese culture through the Cantonese. So she was called Hua Mulan, right? And also her name, Hua Mulan's name, when she was disguised as a man, it's not like today. Today's new version had her man's name as what? As Hua Jun, right? But the animation has him as what? Hua Ping. Hua Ping. Hua Ping is of course Hua Ping, as in flower vase, right? A flower vase. So it's actually very cheeky. She, as a woman disguised as a man, is called a flower vase, which is ironic, of course, because we usually say the woman is the one who's a flower vase, right? When she disguised, when she put on makeup and all, she is a flower vase. But here, Hua Mulan, disguised as a man, is described as a Hua Ping, is a flower vase, which is very cheeky. Actually, the story, the animation has a lot of cheeky moments. For example, the Chancellor, the one who is beside the Emperor, in the 2020 version doesn't have a name, right? But in the animation, he has a name. He's the advisor, and he was called what? Chi Fu, as in bully. His name is Chi Fu, So there's all of these little moments in the animation that's actually pretty fun. Already one of you noticed the little dog is called Little Brother, right? Because the story wants to make Hua Mulan as a single child. And she also has a grandmother, which it's not in the ballad, and it's also not in the 2020 version. What else? We talk about Khan, the Mongol Khan. In the animation, Khan is the horse. The horse is called Khan, right? The black horse of hers. So Khan features somewhere, but as something else. And I think the most important bit the most radical bit in the animation, I'm not sure whether you noticed this, is actually at the end. When after they defeated in this case, not the Mongols, they defeated the Hans. The Hans as in Han of the Attila, the Han, which is another group altogether. And then she saved the emperor. And then the emperor scolds her, right? Originally, he gives a speech and he scolds her. But then later, at the end of the speech, he praised her. And more than just praised her, he did one thing that probably no emperor has ever done. And it's not in the ballad, and it's not in the current movie for obvious reasons. It is the emperor bow to Mulan. You know how powerful that is? Now, she's not just a commoner, she's a woman, and the emperor bows to her. And it's not just the emperor, everybody, the whole kingdom bowed to her. That is a very, very powerful moment in the animation, right? And it also, I guess, highlights the strong Western concept of not just equality, but also respect to the individual who has done a heroic deed, that even the authority will bow to her. And she even had the audacity of hugging the emperor. Emperor didn't get a head chopped off, but that was there in the animation. The movie, of course, wanting to be realistic, didn't have that. The emperor doesn't do that. And also, I guess it's because they understand that they want to appeal to the Chinese audience, and then they don't want to antagonize the Chinese government, and so they cannot have Chinese figure of the Chinese authority bowing to individual, right? Because that is not the way of Chinese government. And so again, a very decisive step in the animation. Okay, so now we're going to go to our second part. I don't think I have enough time because I think the discussion is really good. I want us to spend more time discussing. So I don't think I have enough time for us to look at the clips. But good thing is that we already started out by seeing the two differences between the 1998 and the 2020 version. So you already have some idea. Later on, if you have thoughts or wanting to revisit some of these scenes to make sure that you remember correctly, you can always go to the link that the teacher said may have already shared with you, and just look under the comparison links and watch one or two of these videos. I have actually I actually found five links that show the differences. But for you, you can just, I guess, considering they're still fresh in your mind, and your mind is younger than mine, so it remembers better. Try to recall what are the differences between the two Mulan versions. What do you think have changed in 18 years? What do you think has changed between 1998 and 2020? Compare the two Mulan versions and think about what are the differences. That's the first question. The second question is, again, why do you think Disney made the change? Why make this change? Okay, and then maybe consider whether the change is effective or not. So again, in your group now, for another 10 minutes, discuss these differences. And this time round, I won't choose someone to talk. I will wait for you guys to come back, and then hopefully someone will automatically from each group say something. If not, I will call names. I don't want to have to call names. Right? Okay, so into your groups, compare the two Disney versions, the animation and the recent live action version.
11 minutes later.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Well, I feel surprisingly happy whenever I see all these windows start to pop up again. Okay, so I heard that some of you have actually not watched the latest one, so I hope the clip at least give you some idea or something you can talk about as differences. But those who have watched it, you realize that they actually made a lot of significant changes. Not just because they want to make it for adults, or to enjoy as well. But also they claim they want to make it more real life, more closer to reality and history. Not entirely accurate still, but again, it also is based on what they feel a modern audience, as compared to an audience 20 years ago, would need to know or need to learn. So see whether you can get the moments, the lesson points that they may have. Okay, so let's have you talk about what your group observed. Can I have group one? I'm not going to call names unless you are silent, then I have to call somebody. Group one, can I have someone say something?
Okay, so our first difference we found is that in the 2020 movie...
Oh, excuse me. Can you speak louder? Sorry, your voice.
Okay, sorry. All right, is this line off?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so the first difference we found out is that in the 2020 movie, Mulan has this special power called Qi. So this makes her a higher level than a lot of people else.
Yes.
What is different is, even though she has maybe a power of a general, because she is female, she's still treated as a civilian, or maybe just a soldier, because she's a female. And this more emphasize of the gender inequality, I guess, of how males are different, females are treated differently than males. And then the other difference is that in the 2020 movie, they added a new enemy, which is a witch, which I suppose also have superhuman powers. But what happens is, in the middle of the movie, this witch was at first evil, but at the middle, the witch decided not to be evil because she was also treated badly, even though she has a higher power level. And I feel like this emphasizes that it's not only Mulan that is treated like that. It's many people that is also treated as the same just because they are female. So yeah, I feel like this edition just emphasizes the point of, it just emphasized the point. Yes, thank you.
The point of difference, is it?
Yes, the point of difference.
And you when I listen to you in the group, you say that you don't like the idea of the superpower.
Yeah, this is because I feel like in the 1998 movie, they didn't add a superpower. So it's to feel like it is to just say that Mulan is actually a normal human. She's equal to everybody else. She's also human.
Yes.
But she's really treated badly just because she is female. However, in the 2020 movie, there is a reason where she must be treated well just because she has superpowers, which is a bit not fair.
Yes, that is a very, very good point. That, in fact, is a point that people bring out about the issue with this, right? It's not just about stereotyping the idea of qi, You all know that everybody has qi, right? But down here, they say only special people have it, which is not a correct concept in the first place already. But second thing is what you highlighted, right? By giving her superpowers, she doesn't become like anybody else. She's actually a special group of people who has it, right? Which then makes her less connected with not just other women, but also other humans.
Yes.
Right? And so there's a difference. It seems to send a very weird message where if a woman doesn't have qi, then it will be like the sisters that just get married and have children.
Yes.
Whereas if you have qi, you can do other things. You can be superpower woman in the world or do all the other things, which is a very strange message. So even though I can see, you also rightly say it's a good idea to have this as a way to further differentiate between a man and woman, I guess. But inadvertently, unknowingly, they also created new problems with the idea.
Yeah.
So yes, good point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Second group.
So she was saying in the animation, when her family found out that Mulan was gone, it was her grandmother the one who prayed for her safety. But then in the 2020 live action one, it was her dad who prayed for her safety. And then in the movie, Mulan fights with Chi, but in the animation, she fights with a skill that she learned from the training.
Good points. Good points. And why do you think Disney does it this way? Now, can you think of a reason why Disney made the change? Speculate. Huh?
They decided to have Mulan use Chi to fight in the movie because martial arts is like known for boys. Like boys are better at martial arts, so they can fight with that. However, in the movie they use Mulan, a girl, to have her martial arts to fight, to show that it's not only boys that are able to learn and win a war and fight, but girls can also do that.
Actually, one aspect that I find very interesting in the two versions also is how the animation shows Mulan, because she doesn't have all these skills, she also relies on her brains. So remember the thing about the one who can reach the tallest part wins, right? And they have to climb. She found a way where she used the weight as a way to get her up to the top. So she uses her not just her strength but her mind, because she doesn't have all these other special skills. Whereas the 2020 version does need her to require to rely on her skills to do those things. And I think I'm not sure whether they show a lot of her wits in that, but it comes out in another way, I guess. Right? Can I go to group 3? Is it 3? 3?
So one of the differences between the animation, the 1980 and the 2020 animation, is that Mulan, the relationship between Mulan and the army of men isn't really shown as much as the 1981, because in the 1980 it shows like how how she interacts with the males in the army, making friends with them. But then in the 2020 version, it's more of like just her training and then basically giving almost no credit to the men, even though they're like in the army. But then most of the focus is on her.
Thanks. I don't think I have enough time now, actually, to listen to all the groups. So I will just have one more group share. All right. I'm sure. I mean, I know some of you have very good points. I've heard you in your group, but I think I have enough time just to listen to one more group share. Can I get group 8? Group 8. Anyone from this group?
I think that the difference between the this year one and the one in 1990 was that a question?
Yes.
Is that it's the year 2021 was made to be like less kid friendly because like for example, when a villain is defeated, instead of an arrow piercing his heart as what was shown in 2020 in the one in the 1980s, the dragon which disappeared in this year's movie was fired a fireworks missile at what it's called. So if it pushed him to a building, and yeah, it's more comical. Yeah.
And why do you think they do it this way?
To make the entire movie more real. I don't know. But based on what I read up on the movie, they said they want to make it more real lah. Based on what I read up, so probably that was more real, but it's less kid friendly lah.
Yeah,
like
I think yep.
So basically, it gives it's for more people. It's not just for the cartoon. Cartoon's more based to it panders to children, but the actual movie it's like for people of all ages. So they made it a bit less kid friendly, but.
But I want to challenge you to see that the animation is actually much wittier. I mean, I feel in a sense enjoyable and not just for kids, you know. I mean, I think the animation does reach a wider audience, whereas I think the live action one is I mean you have a very serious sensibility when you watch it. I don't want to say that the animation is only for kids because I feel it's actually very well done. I mean, in terms of the ideas they try to bring in, you know. But just to summarize some of the ideas that I myself get when I try to compare the two versions, the issue that they want to make it more real is also problematic because one of the things that people pointed out is that, you know, it started off by showing that the Hua Mulan's family lived in a tulo, right? A Hakka tulo, which doesn't actually happen until the 11th century, you know. So it's about, 6th century too early for the Hua Mulan story to have that kind of building. Whereas the animation is actually more real because it shows her and her family living in a village, which is right. So the real version is actually less accurate than the animation on that point. Also, the things that have changed in the two versions is the dragon Mushu, right, is now replaced by the phoenix, which doesn't speak, but both are supposed to be guardians. But interestingly, the dragon was originally the guardian of the family of Hua Mulan, family guardian, right, with the ghosts and all and everything. Whereas the new version has the phoenix, which we are told is the guardian of the emperor. So there's a very, very conscious attempt to put power and to put the side of spiritual power in the state as opposed to just something belonging to families, and that is something that you should pay attention to. I think also they are conscious of not suggesting what the original animation has, which is the love affair between Mulan and Captain Li Shang, right? Which is in our modern sensibilities problematic because Li Shang is a superior, you know, he's a boss. and to have a love relationship with boss is problematic. So in the modern version, they did away with him. In fact, they split him into two characters. One is the Commander Tung, right? The one that's played by Donnie Yen, and the fellow soldier Hong Hui, right? Played by Yi Sun M. So in that sense, that romantic interest, the original man, the commander and lover is split into two, so that there's no problem talking about having someone you like who is not your boss or cannot. It's wrong. So they are actually very, very careful about that point. And the key point has already been pointed out. But also another point that I think one of the members very early has pointed out, that the live version now adds a fourth virtue, right? Which is filial piety. The original one is royal, brave, and true. And then they add xiao as the last thing, which has always, I guess, been part of the Mulan story. But to introduce it in such a central way that it becomes institutionalized in the story, with the emperor himself presenting the sword to her with that word, is important. To say that ultimately that is the thing that defines Mulan. She's able to bring in all these values, but also remember ultimately that family is what matters, and that is close to the sense of the ballad. Because the ballad itself really is about that, right? She began because she wanted to protect her own father, and she finally also chooses to go back to her family. All those things that she achieved are duties, but they are not as important as her family. And that's the thing that I think the 2020 version bring in very strongly us back to. Okay. So there's another thing that I thought the animation was very smart in doing, which the current movie doesn't do anymore, which is the animation actually has this thing where the soldiers, in order to defeat the Hans, they disguise as women, right? I thought that was brilliant, to have them cross-dress. So to say that, appearance is not the same as reality, and then, people can appear as anything, and that is not the important thing, right? Whereas I think the new version, they don't have all these funny cross-dressing bits anymore. Okay. So I think we're done. I'm sorry, we're already into time. Thank you very much. I think we've explored a lot. I have you thinking a lot. You should really, when you watch it again, either the movie in animation or the movie in live action, think about all these differences and all these choices that they made in order to appeal to a new audience, but also to get them to think about specific ideas about gender and also about our current times. So thank you very much for having me. I don't know whether the teacher will give you more time for break.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Dr. Gwee, for the very interesting session that we had. I think a lot of discussions were quite robust as well. A lot of people with very interesting opinions. So thank you for allowing that to happen, Dr. Gwee.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Thank you for inviting me.
Can we sort of clap for Dr. Gwee so he can see our hands in all the windows? Make him happy, right?
We'll also thank you. You guys are great. You guys are wonderful.
All right. Yes, thank you, Dr. Gwee.